Hello, whoever's watching this. So my plan, if it works, is to every week do around a 20-minute or no more than 20-minute installment on, I don't know, this little project that I'm working on. I'm not sure what the title is exactly yet, but something like honesty and acting or acting and integrity, something like that. And so it was spurred on by the fact that last Monday, yeah, a week ago, I had two different things happen that felt synchronicitous to me. The first is I got to go to my first acting class since over 4 years. Um, I had been wanting to get back into acting class. There's something really powerful for me about it. And it had been since the pandemic hit. That was literally the last class I took was in March of 2020. So I'm now currently taking classes at a place called Fourth Wall, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But so last Monday, I had my first class, and then later that evening, I was watching the podcast Handsome, which I can't recommend enough. It's a fabulous podcast with Tig Notaro, Fortune Feimster, and Mae Martin, and they were talking a lot about honesty. They get questions every time, and the question prompted them to really dive into honesty. And Tig recommended multiple times this book, which I then later got, called The Way of Integrity, which looks like this, by Martha Beck. So anyway, that day I had my first acting class, and I listened to this podcast that really resonated with me a lot for a number of reasons. I think for me, I am a recovering people pleaser and accommodator, and so the idea of honesty is a tricky one. I also had a session with someone recently, really incredible healer, who talked to me specifically about me working towards being more and more honest with myself and with others. And as for all you fellow people pleasers out there, I think you know that that can be quite challenging. We have tended to move through our life attuning to whoever is in our world and whatever they need from us, whether it be a partner or a parent or teacher, whatever. So we then disconnect from our own selves and what we need and want, and we just connect with whatever they need and want. So when somebody does that for years and years and years, and it becomes a pattern, then when they're forced or encouraged to be honest and actually speak their truth or say what they actually need, what they actually want, it can be extremely difficult. So that's going to be a piece of this little project, I guess, is just the idea of honesty and people pleasing. So they talked a lot about that in the podcast, and Tig, of course, was really raving about this book, and so I thought that sounds really interesting. I want to explore that, and the word integrity. I've only read the first chapter of this book, but the idea behind integrity, I think, comes from this. Martha talks about it in the book. It comes from the Latin integer, I think. I'm probably not saying that right, but which basically means integrated or connected. So the idea behind integrity is that we're speaking what we think and what we feel, and that there's this integration or this connection, symbiosis between all the different elements of how we're moving through the world. So I find that really fascinating. Now, the acting piece of this is something I find really fascinating. And the reason why I feel like it's synchronicity, for me to have had my first acting class and for me to hear that podcast, is that on the surface, it feels like acting and honesty are really far removed from each other. But in my experience, in my limited experience as an actor, I have noticed for myself that diving into a character that isn't me, and really accessing that character, and really in a way accessing where that character lives inside me, has been a pretty impactful and can be quite profound in how it allows me to access a truer part of who I am. And it does this in a way that feels different than a lot of kind of like self-help journeys, or a lot of like problem solving, where it's like, I have this issue and I want to work through it, and which of course I value, and I think it's incredibly wonderful, whether it be through a book or a therapist, like working on your issues, right? That can be really wonderful. But for me, acting, and a lot of actors talk actually about this, about the sort of therapeutic dimension of it. And I think part of why it's therapeutic is because an actor is sort of given permission to explore an arena of themselves that they don't normally do in typical life, because again, they're playing a character. But the truth of it is that when we're watching an actor portray a character, we're also seeing a truth of that person manifest. Not to say that they are that character, especially if the character's, maybe doing some really atrocious things. It's not that that person is actually, I'm not even quite sure how to put this, because I was going to say it's not that they're not capable of that, but that's the compelling thing, right? Is that they actually are capable of it. That I'm of the belief that all humans are really capable of the widest spectrum of kindness and atrocity, and it's a matter of all the different elements, how you were raised and your genetics and all these elements, right? But we all have the capacity to really be any number of characters in the world. So suffice it to say, I find acting to be a really compelling journey into honesty. It's sort of a roundabout way of doing it, but for me personally, it has been, and again, I haven't had a ton of experience with it, especially where I get to really dive into a character or dive into like, really deep emotional work. I've had a handful of experiences like that, and it's been really wonderful. But it's been an invitation to explore deeper parts of who I am, and thus it is encouraging me to be more honest with myself as to who I am. So inadvertently, the practice of developing a character and exploring a character is a way of knowing myself in a deeper way. It's interesting because on the surface that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I feel like for those of you who may have done some acting, especially in that way, I imagine that probably does resonate with you. This idea of discovering deeper parts of yourself through character, exploring character. So all of that kind of leads me to this idea. I thought, okay, it might be fun for me, excuse me, to every week to read a chapter in this book, and there's exercises and things to work on, and then also have my acting class. I had one today. I actually did my very first scene today I played King George, hence the shaved face. Um, and it went well. It was very eye-opening to me. I mean, I can get more into this later if I do, but um, one thing that was very eye-opening for me was that I have almost all my acting experiences stage acting. Stage acting. It's in plays and musicals, which is quite different than film and TV. Which this class is much more oriented around film and TV acting. Which this is a bit of a generalization, but it's I feel like more intimate, more natural. Um, I think more there's like an intensity because of that happens, and less performative. Uh, Not to say that theater isn't any of those things, but I think just the nature of theater, the fact that it's on a stage and being projected out to an audience, means that the actors have to approach the material in a different way. So this is a very new arena for me. So for me to go up the first time today and do my scene was, kind of nerve-wracking, a little scary. Definitely felt pretty vulnerable. So I'm proud of myself for having done that, and got some great feedback and notes, and realized, I definitely have some real growing to do. But again, it was only my first scene. So I really love the class. I really love the teacher. Katie's phenomenal. For those who live in Nashville and have any interest in acting, so far my experience with Fourth Wall has been really phenomenal. And I know some other folks who have had positive experiences too. So, and the one other thing I'll say about that is that one of my favorite elements of taking acting classes, especially in this kind of way, is I feel like it's one of the most vulnerable activities someone can do. You have 2 or 3 people, typically 2, going up in front of a small audience. It's very intimate, like 10 feet away. And they are working out how to embody these characters. And, these characters are going through all kinds of emotional experiences. They have these backstories. And we are, as people, just attempting to live inside these characters, and we're doing it in front of other people, and we're also having a coach watch us and give us notes. So it's incredibly vulnerable. I think it takes a considerable amount of courage to do that, and we're also exploring the human condition as we're doing all of this, because through acting and through storytelling, we are tapping into all the different dimensions of the human experience. So again, truthfulness. I also have taken some Meisner classes, which is an approach to acting, and Sanford Meisner talked a lot about being truthful, and what does that mean? What does that look like for an actor? And so, I mean, really, ultimately, actors are aiming to be as honest in their performance as possible. They want to be believable. They want to convey to the audience, whether that be live or not, that this character is real. This is a real person that has real emotions and life experience and all of this. And so honesty is a big piece of that. So I'm realizing now that the honesty piece around acting is actually multidimensional. It's not just that the performance wants to be honest, but that the process of working on characters and working on scenes with other people is also a means to connect with honesty in a more meaningful way. So, like I said, I finished the first chapter of this book, and there's, questionnaires and exercises in it. So far, I'm enjoying it quite a lot. And yeah, it's about the idea of integrating and becoming whole. And I have been lucky enough to, go to therapy and read a number of books in all kinds of sort of self-help arenas, and it's been phenomenal. I'm so grateful for it. But it's interesting because, like I said earlier, the acting is this sort of therapeutic form that, I guess because it's artful and because it's in some ways indirect, it feels really exciting as a means of understanding myself more deeply, and also hopefully accessing a level of honesty that I'm striving for. Like I mentioned before, as a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser, um, an accommodator, that level of honesty has been quite considerably affected, right? A lot of us don't even know that that's the case until we're confronted by it. Maybe a partner or something has helped us realize that we're not actually being honest with ourselves, and thus we're not being honest with other people. And it reminds me of the phrase "clear is kind," which I've heard recently, and I really do think that there's so much truth to that. That again, you don't have to be hateful, you don't have to be abrasive, but I think letting people know where you stand, how you feel, truly, and what you truly think, is an act of kindness, and it allows more transparency and allows healthier relationships. So anyway, I'm just excited. My plan is, every week after acting class to spend some time, and I'll read a new chapter in this book and just see where it takes me. There's, I think, 15 chapters in the book. I hope to be taking more acting classes than that. I won't be doing scenes every week in the class. I think every other week. So one thing that's wonderful about class is that whether I'm working on a scene or I'm observing scenes, it's extremely educational and compelling. And like I said, it's one of my favorite things is to explore the human condition in an artful way, and these classes really do that. So I just figured it might be an interesting combination to explore the world of acting, both the preparation of it and the performance of it, alongside this idea of what does it mean to be really honest? What does integrity look like? Anyway, just sort of some vlog journaling for anyone who may be interested. So again, I've never really done anything like this, so we'll see how it plays out. But thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and if I put this on any sort of platform that has comments, feel free to to offer up any thoughts or questions you might have, because this is a journey that we're all on some level. In a way, we're all performing a character of us, and so even if we're not actors, we are acting on some level, and we're always contending with the truth of who we are. So on that note, I bid you adieu.